His mum walked into the bedroom, found him in a pool of vomit, not breathing. She rolled him onto his back, commenced CPR. His dad walked in, saw what happened, called an ambulance. Ambulance brings him to us. We put a breathing tube down his throat. When he first arrived, he had this machine that basically does CPR for you. It was in a bad way. His heart stopped working 3 times. The third time was when he arrived. So the ambulance officers commenced that machine. We put a tube down his throat, paralyzed him, sent him to ICU. And for the last 10 or so days, he's been on my mind. Fella was 32. This is a fella that's younger than me. And the last thing I heard from ICU guys was that he's pretty much brain dead. And there's some talk about organ donation. But because of his history, a lot of the organs are not harvestable. They're not viable. Because of his history, alcohol abuse. Apparently, what led to the events was he tried to give up alcohol, went 2 days dry, and then what seems like he had a withdrawal seizure, and he obstructed his airway, lost consciousness, obstructed his airway, and then he must have aspirated contents from his stomach into the lungs, and then obviously stopped breathing. Spent a lot of time without oxygen. His brain was damaged severely, and now, there's a lot of reflexes that are absent. I think there's going to be some more testing to work out exactly the extent of it. But the family is devastated. Obviously devastated, losing a son at 32. I was devastated when he rolled up. Whenever you have somebody arriving to your resus room with CPR, it's never a good time. The chances of people surviving and walking out of hospital that have had CPR is very, very small. The percentages are like, less than 5% if it's a out of hospital arrest. So the chances of survival are not existent. He's 32. Now, it seems as though this is the conclusion of his story. But I think the damages and the bulk of the story is the years leading up to this. What leads a fella to drink so much, to damage his organs so much, to be so deep in a rut that at 32, prime years, he should be building something. He's at his absolute bottom of life. A lot of times in the resus room, the emergency staff, we deal with people that are elderly. And I always say this, it's not that I have a cold heart towards elderly people, but when somebody goes through a similar situation like this and they're 85, there's a feeling of order, people dying in order. So you never want to upset that order. Children should not be buried by their parents. That is upsetting the order. And I think this is why we all feel heavy about this. And this is why we all walk away from this stuff and we continue living our life. And, I'm squatting every day. I'm talking about all these different exercises and setting PRs and all sorts of stuff. But in the back of my mind, this type of story just hovers, lingers. And I try to make sense of it all. Even after all these years of being in this job, you don't become immune to it, man. Death is the heaviest of subjects. And it has an impact. It has an impact, and I don't think it's, everyone's got their own ways, but I don't think it's a good thing to avoid thinking about it. I think it's good to process this stuff. Because I think ultimately it has a positive impact on you, because it reminds you, at the very least, of finality, of how precious life is. You know, not every day do I work on somebody that's younger than me in the resus room and so unwell. I can tell you, when he rolled in, my adrenaline was running high, running around with my colleagues in there, setting up all these different infusions and worried about how to, go through with the intubation and worrying about whether his heart's going to stop again. His heart did start up again shortly after he arrived, and we transferred onto our bed. And, you're working really hard. You're trying to get all the drugs ready and all this stuff that we do in the resus room. And the whole time I'm like, please, man, just, don't let his heart stop again. But the damage has already been done. I don't know how long he spent without oxygen on that floor. I don't know how long any of this stuff is. But if you spend 5 minutes without taking a breath, there's a lot of damage happening in the body. Even a 32-year-old body will have some huge deficits. And in this case, it seems as though that, his brain has suffered too much. From my own personal experience, looking after many people with brain injuries, traumatic brain injuries, hypoxic brain injuries. Hypoxic means not enough oxygen. Oxygen starvation, brain injuries, all that stuff. I almost, for myself, I would wish for me to pass away than to live in a severe deficit state where you're basically a vegetable and you can't even get up and eat your food and talk to your friends and enjoy life. And today I'm driving to the gym. I've got another shift tonight. I'm driving to the gym and I'm like, man, I'm thinking about whether my bench press is going to carry over from the wide training that I've done last month or so, whether it's going to carry over to the narrow. I wanted to come in and do narrow. And I'm driving and I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, damn, I wonder how that 32-year-old family, family of that 32-year-old is. It just popped into my mind, just out of nowhere, man. I didn't invite the thought or whatever. I'm not in uniform. I'm driving to a gym. I'm thinking about my stuff, and all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, bang, the thought comes in and then dominates my thinking for the rest of the session. Yes, I've continued going, and I loaded up 140 on the narrow bench press, and it didn't feel good, so I re-racked it. I'm like, okay, I need to lead up to this. I can't just unrack 140 after not doing narrow for so long. So I'm doing all of this, but then constantly back in my mind, I'm busy with these thoughts, and if you're a parent, you could, I don't know if you can, but you can maybe imagine, maybe not even imagine, the pain that his parents are going through. Obviously, I don't know any of the dynamics in the family. Obviously, the problem was there for many years. People don't destroy their body with alcohol in one weekend. You need to be seriously drinking for a very long time because, we all have hangovers after drinking. I certainly have. In my earlier years, I don't do a lot, this stuff anymore because of family life and responsibilities. But, you don't get withdrawal seizures from alcohol after a night out. You need to be dependent on alcohol for many years. And then you become so dependent on it that if you don't drink that particular substance, in this case, alcohol, for 2 days, like in this fella's case, your body goes into a seizure, a withdrawal seizure. And seizures are very dangerous, especially when they happen and nobody's in the room, because there's nobody to roll them onto the side. There's nobody to protect that airway. And so we solve that airway with the contents of our stomach. We aspirate that content. And then our lungs can't breathe when they're full of stuff that should be in the stomach. We're not fish. We can't breathe underwater. And so in this fella's unfortunate case, the family must have not have heard him fall over or whatever have you. And so he must have spent a lot of time on the floor that he actually arrested. He had a cardiac arrest. The weight of this situation is that he's 32. That's the first thought. He's a young man. And it's upsetting the order of things. It's not every day that you think about putting somebody in a body bag that's younger than you. I'm 35, man. So this fella is younger than me, and it seems like he's gone. That's heavy, man. That's heavy, and it's very hard to think about bench. Think about squats. Very hard. I did it. Went through the motions. But my mind wasn't in it, man. My mind is busy with something else. And it doesn't help that today's an excellent day. Sunny, clear skies. And I'm just thinking about that poor family that are gutted. Absolutely gutted. Preparing a funeral. In fact, I don't even know if he's out of ICU. I don't know if all the testing is done. But last I heard was that there's no brain activity, basically. Absolutely gutted.